broadcast. You're a part of the resistance.
Welcome back to Star Wars Newsnet's The Resistance Broadcast. My name is John Hoey. Thank you for being a part of the Resistance and taking time to talk about Star Wars with us today. And you tuned in to the right transmission as we have an awesome guest joining the Resistance today. But first, you know them and you love them. It's James Bainey and Lacey Gillerin. What's up, guys?
I am so pumped for that Top Gun sequel. John doesn't believe me, but I am ready to go and enter the danger zone one more time.
Is it going to be with Tom Cruise?
It's with Tom Cruise, absolutely.
All right.
Lacey, are you more excited for Episode 9 or Top Gun 2?
Episode 9, clearly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Just
no, I'm super
seeing where
pumped.
your priorities
I
are.
was just thinking in my head, the reason I paused is I thought, do they love us? Question
Yeah,
mark?
don't forget it. It's Top Gun 2 Maverick. Or
Right.
is it just Top Gun Maverick?
I think it's Top Gun : Maverick.
I think it might be Top Gun : Maverick.
He jumped out of
Right.
a plane 106 times, so...
I think he can do it.
Well, our guest this week can be seen on Collider Video. He is a member of our good friends over there at Collider Jedi Council. He's also an actor, a voice actor, a movie trivia champion, and most importantly, a Star Wars fan. Let's welcome to the Resistance the man they call the Outlaw, Mr. John Rocha. How you doing, John?
Woo!
Hey, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
He's everything we'll never be.
Oh, stop it. Stop it. Well, I'm a Top Gun fan. I imagine Lacey will never be that. But everything else, everyone has a chance to be everything else that I am. So thank you. Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to this. You guys, like Christian turned me on to you guys years ago when I was doing Far, Far Away. And it's been a pleasure reading all your articles and reading all the stuff about Star Wars. And I walked into it not knowing there was still a whole world of this stuff. And Christian walked me into it. You know, after the prequels, I kind of walked away for a while, and I had no idea that you could have Star Wars news every damn day, and you guys do that. So it's pretty incredible.
Thank you,
Yeah, and-
Disney.
Yeah,
exactly.
And, by the sounds of it, there's going to be a lot more coming, so we're going to have a lot to do.
Oh, yeah.
But we have a lot to get to today, and what we like to do on this show, because it's Thursday, is find out whether or not the Force is with us. So, Lacey, what's going on this week?
The Force will be with you, always.
Yeah, so we're going to do Is the Force With You. I don't have any catchy quotes or anything because I thought we would just get to it. So are you guys ready? This is like super serious
Yeah.
stuff.
We'll just edit in a Top Gun quote later.
No, we will not. Okay, our first topic is Kathleen Kennedy took over Lucasfilm after George Lucas sold his company to Disney in 2012. She has led the successful sequel trilogy. However, production on several of the Star Wars movies since the sale have not been very smooth. This being said, Episode 9 starts filming this July for release in December of 2019 to end the saga films. With the backlash hitting Star Wars after The Last Jedi and the underwhelming performance of Solo, what is Kennedy's future? Okay, so let's do a what if here. Kathleen Kennedy will not be the president of Lucasfilm beyond Episode 9. Is the Force with you? I'm going to start with our guest, John.
Okay, what is it you're looking for here specifically? Do I think...
Yeah, so is the Force with you that Kathleen Kennedy will not be the president of Lucasfilm after Episode 9?
I will say it's before.
Really?
I think I think they're going to make some moves. This Hollywood Reporter article that came out recently where they talked about how they're only going to release like one Star Wars film a year. I think they're working behind the scenes to possibly remove Kathleen Kennedy even earlier than Episode 9. I think it's like that. It's a movie. It's like Hoosiers, where Gene Hackman, Barbara Hershey says to him, they're going to hold a meeting for you and vote you out. He's like, well, I guess I better win a game. And she goes, I think it's a little deeper than that, don't you? And I think it's that kind of, I feel like there's more going on here behind the scenes than people know about. Now, I don't know anything personally from speaking to anybody that I know at Lucasfilm or anything like that, but I just have a weird vibe, a weird feeling, and you sense it, and you sense how people are responding. And we had John, we had some things going on here that we had to cancel because we were told to cancel because the people didn't want to come in to talk about the movie anymore because they were told they can't talk about the movie. So those kinds of things let me know that some things are in motion. So technically, to your answer, I would say no, because it's going to happen before, not after episode 9. That's what I think.
Interesting. Now, the other John, how do you follow that answer?
After that answer, I'm officially the other John for the rest of the episode, and that's fine. I'm going to say yes, and I'm a big fan of what she's done. I love The Force Awakens. I love The Last Jedi. I liked Solo a lot. Rogue One wasn't a big one for me.
You're insane.
And I was thinking, not necessarily from an age factor, but after episode 9's done, she's going to be approaching 70, and that's around the age George Lucas was like, I'm out of here. So she may, even if she's not jettisoned the way, John, you're alluding to, she may just kind of say, like, I've had enough. Like, I have so much money. We're going to go retire to Hawaii or something, and my 40-year awesome career is going to be in the books.
She's going to work on smaller films, for her family. Stuff you won't ever see.
That no one's ever going to see.
Yeah, no one's ever going to see.
So my short answer is yes. I think we're coming to the end of the line for Kathleen Kennedy after episode 9. So the Force is with me.
James?
Right now, so here's the thing, Last Jedi mixed, Solo mixed, right? But the other two movies were doing pretty great. So right now she's kind of sitting on 2 to 2, too good, too bad. So it kind of seems like it could come down to hey, you get one more shot. You've got plenty of time to plan this one out, plenty of time for everybody to make their cool heads, get everything, back into the spirit of it's been a while since we've gotten a Star Wars film. If 9 is great, that could determine her future, but I don't know. It's a tricky one. I would say that if the question is, do I buy it if she is not going to be after 9, then I guess, I like what she's done for me personally, but at the same time, maybe we should let somebody else come in and, let's see a different regime. Let's see these other movies done under different people, although that may change some things around too. The new person could come in and say, Rian Johnson trilogy out, we're not making that anymore. So who knows, we may get things we like the idea of, we may get things that we don't. So, but I'm going to say that, Force is with me, that she probably will not be, or if she isn't, that I'd be okay with that, I guess.
3 for 3 so far.
Yeah, I think mine's a little bit more dependent on her choice. I think that if she's not the president after episode 9, it's going to be because she decided that and not because anybody else forced her out. So that's what my answer is, and that's a short answer, but I feel like everybody kind of touched on why I think that. But I think she's tough. She's one of the top people in the industry. She's strong. She knows what she wants, and that rubs people the wrong way. But if she leaves, it's going to be on her time.
Lacey, I think this is, if I can interject real quick, I think this is I think we should be clear to clarify. I think all of us respect Kathleen and what she's done. I mean, Steven, she came in with Frank Marshall and Steven Spielberg, and some of the greatest films that we still love, Raiders of the Lost Ark and what have you. So many great films she was a part of. Sometimes I think it's just a matter of maybe this isn't the right mix or the right fit for her, and maybe she will leave on her own terms and be like, you know what? Because the Star Wars fan base can be quite passionate, and so maybe she's like, I don't need this.
I'm glad you called them passionate.
I got to respect people. I like passionate people. I'm a passionate person myself, and so I get it, and so maybe this is her. She could go leave on her own, absolutely, and be like, this is too much. I don't need it. I'm way too accomplished, way too established to have to deal with this, and there's a better, smoother fit for me down the road.
She also might have other goals and dreams that she wants to accomplish. That's another thing too.
Sure.
All right, let's move on to this kind of depressing topic. To a somewhat also depressing topic. I apologize. Okay, so Solo: A Star Wars Story was well received by fans, receiving an A- from fans leaving the theaters via the polling system CinemaScore. But the film didn't perform great at the box office, especially internationally. So this begs the question, do you move forward with these characters and continue this storyline since it was well received, or will they move on due to its lackluster performance? So let's assume our buddy Bob Iger steps in and it's all about the almighty dollar, and they make no sequel to Solo: A Star Wars Story. Is the Force with you guest John, do you believe that he could do that?
Do I believe that Bob Iger will step in and cancel any sequels for Solo?
Yep, due to money. Yeah.
Yes. Due to money, absolutely. I think Solo, if Alden Ehrenreich shows up as Han Solo again, it will not be in a sequel movie. If they go forward with that Boba Fett movie, he may come in and do a part in that. Or if they do the Kenobi movie, it would be really hard to put Solo in the Kenobi movie because obviously they meet in the canteen in New Hope. So depending on how they mess around with that, we'll see. But I think the only opportunity we have to see him is in either somehow they do a Lando movie or they do a Boba Fett movie. But I think because of the connotation of Solo: A Star Wars Story being a disappointing, or at least opening weekend box office, we don't know what's going to happen the next few weeks for that film. But if it stays in this place, like right now, the Wrap was estimating 400 to 450 million worldwide, which would be the lowest any Star Wars movie has ever made.
Forbes was saying it was going to make 225 domestically.
Domestically, right,
Yeah.
right. So we'll see, but by the end of its run, you mean? By
Yeah.
the end of its run, yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. Hey, Mendelssohn's no joke. That's a friend of mine. We came out to L.A. and we've known each other for a little while. That guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah,
So
he had the math down packed.
Yeah, he's really good at that stuff. We've had our battles about stuff even before we were employed by people to argue about films and what have you. So, but I think absolutely there will be no sequels for Solo. I think there's no way. People, the stink of it, unfortunately, for lack of a better term, I think they will want to walk away from it because you're right, the almighty dollar, and that's what Iger's all about.
James, what do you think?
Do I want to see a Solo sequel? Absolutely. Like, I would be bummed if I heard, hey, it's never happening. They're not making that movie. I'm like, dang it, man. I loved going on an adventure with Han Solo. Lando, I want to see more of that. I've always thought about that period of time where he was just on his own, and I loved seeing the movie and I loved seeing the story, and I would be open to seeing more of it. But you got to know that Bob's making a smart decision here. I just think it's so obvious that they're like, you got the whole fandom has been clamoring. It's a huge galaxy. There's so many stories to tell. We don't need another Star Wars, another Solo. Let's do something else and let's take a stab at that, because if that makes money, then you look back at this and go, why did we try to make Solo work? It wasn't, you keep trying to make Solo happen. It's not happening kind of a thing. So, yeah.
Did you just make a Mean Girls joke?
Oh, I make plenty of Mean Girls jokes.
Did you just make a Fetch joke?
But yeah, I would be sad to see it not happen. But at the same time, you got to think it's probably not going to happen. And Bob and Lucasfilm and everybody involved would be smarter for it.
Okay, other John?
So let's assume Bob Iger...
Our buddy, Bob Iger.
With his like vault, like Scrooge McDuck, he's swimming in his money, and he's like, you know what? Solo 2's not going down. Is the Force with me? No, it's not, because of what James said. I want more Solo. I think Alden deserves another shot. I think he did a fantastic job, considering all the things that was said, all the drama this movie went through this past year, and they were able to turn that out. That's really impressive to me. Mm-hmm. It also says to me that Kathleen Kennedy made the tough choice, knowing they'd go way over budget, and said, we'd rather give a good product and take a hit here than make a crap movie and take a hit another way. So I give them credit for that. And I agree, we probably won't see another Solo movie, and that's kind of a bummer to me. But the Force is not with me if it happens, because I wanted to see more out of these guys. But maybe like John said, Alden pops up somewhere else as Han in this time frame in someone else's movie, or maybe even a TV series. You never know.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with the first John and say that this isn't going to happen. The Force is with me on this one. I said this for weeks, guys, that we've been talking about, like, what if it does really well? Will they do another sequel? I just don't. I think with all the drama and all the things that went wrong with this movie, and regardless of Ron Howard doing an amazing job and him coming under budget of what they asked of him, and reshooting 70% of the movie, I just don't think the end result was worth the drama that they dealt with getting to that end result. Therefore, I think they'll just want to kind of do a washing of the hands and kind of move on. They might continue the story in books or comics, or some other, literary medium.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Sure.
Would you want to see, like, does this make you think that they should have left them alone and let Lord and Miller finish their movie? Like, have you had that thought about this situation?
I did recently when I read the true reason why they got jettisoned, because it turned out the Ace Ventura and all that stuff was not accurate. They were actually really trying to make a dark and gritty movie.
Yeah, gritty.
And that's what Kathleen Kennedy didn't like. She wanted more of a let's hit close to home, fun Star Wars vibe. So that's interesting to me. So I would like to have seen what they did, but for them to make that kind of drastic decision and almost double the budget, something really must have been bad. And it sounded like they clashed with too much improvisation. And you don't want to do that to Larry Kasdan. He's too much of a Hall of Famer for Star Wars to do that to his words on his script. So from that perspective, I'm a big Kasdan guy. I say no.
I'm also curious if the actors just didn't like it. Like some actors love improv, like half of Step Brothers
Vince Vaughn.
is Will Ferrell
Every
just
movie.
going off. But maybe some people just didn't like it.
Yeah, I think we got the feeling that Emilia Clarke was kind of clashing a little bit too, because I think she was relieved when Ron Howard came in and said that she was able to do things over, and she was like, I think she even stated like, "Oh, good, because I didn't do it well the first time," and I think that was like half like, I get a second take because I didn't do well, but I think it was also kind of like, oh, good, because I didn't like what was happening the first time in general, which could be it could be a director comment. So I don't know though about having them finish the movie, because I really enjoyed what Ron Howard did. So it's kind of hard for me to say, do I think the Lord and Miller version would have been better than what I got? It's tricky.
Yeah, I have a hard time. I know this is y'all's show. I get real passionate about this kind of stuff.
No, man, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
That's why we wanted you on, man.
Oh, thanks, man. I just have a hard time believing that they were able to get all these other actors for all these other films to be damn happy and produce great films, and then for some reason they couldn't quite get it. Like, these actors had issues with working with, especially someone like Donald Glover, who like worked a lot with the Russos, who enjoyed doing some improv on Community, would have an issue with it. I could see it with Emilia Clarke, because you know what? I haven't really liked her work outside of Game of Thrones, to be honest with you, and so maybe she's still kind of finding like her confidence as an actress. And we saw with Natalie Portman after the prequel, she went into a deep depression about her abilities as an actress because of that experience, and maybe Emilia was feeling some of that. And so the way Ron came in was more, he's an older veteran director. He knows how to kind of calm the situation down, and maybe that's what she needed. And maybe even Alden too, with the whole acting coach thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all of that. Maybe just it had to go the way it went, but unfortunately, I think we lost the possibility of a really different Star Wars movie, which is what Kathleen had promised us from the beginning, and yet we've really been unable to deliver fully. I think Rogue One was probably the most realized different type of Star Wars movie, but Force Awakens, very reminiscent of the original trilogy. Last Jedi, well, you could argue Last Jedi is certainly a different Star Wars movie. That first 45 minutes or an hour, and then the rest is magnificent. You could have those discussions, but I feel like Solo, a Star Wars story, I think Lord and Miller were the right directors. I just wish they could have let him just finish the job, and then we'll see what happens. And because she has such a track record, or not she, I should say Lucasfilm itself, because she's not the only one making the decisions. Yeah. They have a track record of replacing these directors or dropping them or bringing people in to finish. Even Rogue One, that happened. So
you want the Snyder cut for Solo?
I think Lord and Miller they were really good picks, because at Celebration, when they came out and the way they talked about it and the way they talked about Alden and how they saw 3,000 people and they chose him, the passion that they had when they spoke about it, you were like, oh, this is clearly the right decision. So I know it was like, for me, it was kind of like that kind of sucks that they were out, especially because I love Lego Movie, which, by the way, deserved an Oscar. Snub of the century.
I like Lego Movie too.
John, let me ask you: it's after Episode 9, Kathleen Kennedy's out. Does Lord Miller get another shot? Does the new head bring them in to do another movie?
I would be surprised, because we're dealing with large amounts of money here, not like taking a chance on an independent feature. There's hundreds of millions of dollars involved here, and I think the Star Wars fan base would be hesitant to allow Lord and Miller to do a Star Wars film at this point. But it
And
all
Bob
would
Iger
depend.
too, right?
And Bob Iger, yeah. I think it would depend on who would run.
I agree. I just want to make sure that the majority of fans aren't in your boat. You know what I mean? If people are saying now, man, I don't know, Solo kind of maybe they should have finished the movie. Maybe I would have liked to see their movie. Then maybe a couple years down the line, they go, hey, why don't we give them the shot? But anyway, I agree. I think it would be too much of a risk. There's too many great people out there that could do films. Why do we need to go back to them when there was already like issues?
Yeah, and I want to tell you guys something as your reporters for Star Wars Newsnet. My friend who works for Fox, I can't give you his name, he was on a boat with Lord and Miller after they were fired, a week or two after they were fired.
Yeah.
And they both said it's amazing how accurate the reporting of what happened behind the scenes is on these sites. They all said that it was pretty on point about what was described and what happened. So that lets you know what you guys have been reporting, what other sites are reporting. Like they pretty much, y'all were nailing it. So
cool.
Oh, wow. Thanks, man.
it. Yeah.
So I have another side question. I know we're a little off topic, but why not?
That happens with me.
So
sorry.
there have been some comments. I believe Ridley Scott was one of the people that said, like, why are they giving these big franchise blockbuster films to like indie directors and or directors that haven't handled big franchises like this before? John, do you think that might also be part of the issue, is that they're not getting seasoned directors? Or
So let me see if I've got this right. The guy who directed Blade Runner, who was an insane sci-fi film, as one of his first films, is complaining that indie directors are coming in doing these massively large budget films.
I'll definitely fact check it, but I believe he was one of the people that was like, I don't know why they keep doing this.
Yeah, that's the old guy going back. Why are they giving that rookie a shot? I didn't get a chance. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You forget. You did.
But I mean, with the feedback of Ryan Johnson,
I didn't
and Lord
I didn't
and
know
Miller.
James Cameron directed the new Blade Runner. No,
was it Cameron who said that? Or was it Ridley Scott? Sorry.
no,
Cameron?
I was just teasing.
Oh, okay. But for me, I think it's the right move because I think the indie directors coming out now are better prepared to make the jump than maybe indie directors 20 years ago. I think they've grown up on blockbusters, on seasonal blockbusters since obviously Jaws and Star Wars, but they've also like every summer and then with their parents like taking them to these movies and getting into, so they understand what this product is. They may not know what it's like to be on the set, but that's why you have advisors, and if you have good people in charge. I mean, look at all the people who stepped into Marvel movies and done incredible work because they had Kevin Feige shepherding them into port. Letting them, do their type. I mean, Taika Waititi. That is it's such an insane movie to have in the MCU.
That was one of my favorite movies ever for Marvel.
Yeah,
I've never laughed so hard.
Exactly, but it's so different yet somewhat similar to what we'd seen before. But yet he was able to put his spin on it, and I think that's what was maybe missing in these situations: a little more trust and a little better guidance for all these independent filmmakers that were making the jump into these situations.
Yeah, I mean, take the clock back to The Empire Strikes Back. I mean, who on the heels of the biggest movie ever, who knew who Irvin Kershner was?
Right, only George Lucas because he was his teacher. Yeah,
and he made arguably my favorite anyway, best Star Wars movie ever. So.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of old guys. Okay. Billy D. Williams appeared at MegaCon Orlando a couple weekends ago, and it was revealed that he has been training 3 times a week with a trainer and has a whole new diet. I don't know what that means, but whole new diet. As expected,
Colt 45s.
Right. As expected, this has led to many fans speculating a return of Lando in Star Wars Episode 9. Billy D. just turned 81 years old. We will see him as old Lando and Calrissian in Episode 9. Is the Force with you? Good, John.
Is that me? I will say yes, absolutely. He will be in Episode 9 because every one of these films has had someone from the original trilogy to be part of the storyline. And I think people have been clamoring for Billy D. Since this whole thing was brought back. this next trilogy, and you see Billy D on the stage looking at some of these people, going, "Man, I should be up in these movies." God damn it! You know,
that was a really good impression.
That's pretty good.
I'm just saying, I know he wants to be part of this stuff. So for me, I think he's absolutely going to be in Episode 9. And I think coming off the success of what Donald Glover did with his portrayal of Lando in Solo, people will want to see it.
And other John?
This is such a low point for me, for my ego. No, yes, I think it happens because if we are ever going to get fans interjecting their wishes onto a Star Wars movie, the time is right now. I think it happens. He's 81 though, so I think it's going to be a small role, small cameo, maybe a Leia funeral or something. I don't know. Because 10 years ago, I would have said a legitimate role. Maybe at 71, he could still pull it off, kind of like Harrison Ford did in The Force Awakens. But 81, Lando's not going to be running around and stuff, so he may appear just for the sake of it. And like John said, it'd be nice to get another person from the original trilogy in, aside from our expected appearance by Force Ghost Luke. So I'll say the Force is with me. We will see Lando, but only a little bit, I think.
James?
I would love to see Lando in the movie, but I don't think it's happening. I don't think that a report that, you know, he's getting back into shape or anything like that has anything to do with the fact that, you know, I mean, I understand they wanted Mark and Carrie to get back in shape and stuff like that, but I just don't think that his place in that movie, in the story, has, I don't know. I just don't think he has any place. So I've said it a million times before. They've said it a million times before. Where was he in 7? Well, yeah, I don't know. We just didn't write him in. Where was he in 8? Yeah, we looked for a spot. We couldn't really find a spot, so he wasn't needed, you know? And I just think it would be weird for him to show up in 9 and say, you know, I heard that the buzzer was going off and we received the message, but we didn't come. I don't know. It's just weird. Like, what's he doing? Why is he? I don't know. Is he even alive? Are we confident that the character is alive at this point? I think he was alive before Force Awakens via bloodline, but I don't know. By the time the actual movie Episode 7 starts, he may be dead. So I don't know. I don't think he's coming back. I don't think this is an indication. Answer. I don't think this is an indication that he's coming back. If there are other indications down the line, we'll talk about maybe him being in the movie, but him deciding that he wants to get into shape and maybe lose a couple pounds, or I don't know.
I think he's definitely going to be in it. The Force is with me. That's the proper way to answer that. I think, you know, we talked about this a couple weeks ago where they're casting for Caro, who seems to be maybe his daughter. That could possibly think. You know what I want? And this is probably the most fan servicey thing ever. I want Chewie to like kind of like take off on his own for a little bit and then shows up right at the like perfect time. The door comes down to the Millennium Falcon and there's Lando being like, "You miss me?" Like, that's what I want. That's what I want. And I hope it happens. And so I think he's going to be in it.
I wouldn't hate that.
It's going to be awesome. He can stand for a little bit, right? A little bit.
Yeah.
I wonder what kind of training he's doing. Do you think he's doing like
Lacey's so mean. Lacey, you're so mean, Lacey. You're so mean. You're going to get old too, you know.
I'm picturing Lando or Billy D with those like 2.5 pound weights that people have just to have weights in their hands. You know what I mean? And then he's eating like he's drinking smoothies and stuff.
I want him to have like full on swagger though. If he comes back, I want full swagger, 0 to 100.
I mean, like I could see, if he's in the movie, I could see him being like kind of that friendly grandfather figure to Rey, and he's saying like, you know, this used to be my ship, you know, and stuff like that. Maybe I'll get it back from you one day or something. Kind of poke some fun at that idea, and I think that could be fun. And you know, maybe they are trying to kind of bring back a little bit of the thing that everybody kind of said they didn't get, which was the big 3 on screen. So maybe we can bring in a little bit more of that. Like I said, I'd love to see it. I just don't think this is an indication that it's happening.
The question is, does Lobot show up with him?
Ooh.
Oh, Lobot.
You almost have to, but is that actor still around?
I don't know, but Nyennob is probably still around, so I'm sure Nyennob will show up.
Oh yeah, he was in The Force Awakens. Yeah, he's around. He's
around.
Hanging out.
This is how my mind works. I'm like, yeah, is he alive? And then you said, is that actor alive? And I was like, oh, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was thinking about the character.
I'm all
that's
about
how my mind
continuity,
works.
man.
I just go to canon, man. How does
I
it
go to
fit
continuity.
into canon?
Lacey wants those things like drooping off because he's old. Those little things coming off his ears.
I guess I've learned that I hate old people. I don't know. Like,
He has it, but he also has like one of those earpieces behind, so he can like.
I would also like to remind everyone on this podcast that Harrison Ford broke his ankle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
I'm
shattered his whole
concerned
leg.
for Billy D's health.
that's fair. Billy
Lando
D's
just
the
shows
king.
up with handing out hard candies to everybody. He's like, all right, everybody.
Is it, what are those called?
Werther's Originals.
Yeah.
My grandma loved those.
There you go.
Hey, it's my
All right,
birthday.
so
Well,
It's
on that
$5
note,
for Ray.
this segment is dead.
$5 for your birthday.
Happy birthday, Ray. Here's
$12
$5.
Yeah.
$5 checks.
And back to John.
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
All right, we got goofy there, and now we have to have a discussion about the fallout or effect of the Solo box office performance on future decisions for Star Wars. Now, whether we loved Solo or not, the fact is that the movie went way over budget due to the Ron Howard reshoots, upwards around 80% of the film, which we actually broke the story right here on the podcast last fall. A little bit of a humble brag there. Another fact is that the movie has not performed as expected. Granted, this podcast is being recorded before the second weekend, but 168 million overall first weekend is not good for a Star Wars movie. I don't care who you are. Now, will this impact the future of Star Wars films? We're going to discuss this right now from all possible ways and angles, perhaps starting with what we talked about before, this rumored Boba Fett movie and whether or not that's even going to happen. So, grand scheme of things, John Rocha, with how Solo has performed, will this impact Lucasfilm's decisions for future Star Wars movies that they may have had mapped out?
Well, I think we're already seeing that with that Hollywood Report article that I referenced earlier. They're only going to do one Star Wars film a year. I think you're seeing that people are starting to react to it now. I think Last Jedi woke a lot of people up. I mean, it was like Holdo slamming that freighter slamming the ship into Snoke's ship. Like it completely split the fandom in both ways. And so for me,
where were you on The Last Jedi? Did you like
I like The Last Jedi, but I hated that first 30 minutes. Like all the jokes, it just drove me insane. Not because you can't joke in these situations. Marvel has a way of doing it that's well. But even Marvel with the second Avengers movie, that whole opening when they're all making jokes with each other when they're trying to get what they're trying to get out of Sokovia, I'm like, these are forced jokes. These don't make sense in the rhythm of the movie, in the organic rhythm of the movie. And I felt like his mama jokes and his I'll hold, all that stuff drove me insane. But throughout, I thought the film was a new kind of Star Wars film. I thought Ryan did take some chances that I could get rid of that Canto Bight scene. But everything that he did near the last hour of the movie, hour and 15 minutes of the movie, was, like I said, magnificent. It was incredible. I was on the edge of my seat. I go back and forth. I will never find like 100% comfort with what happened with Luke. I can explain it away. I can make sense. I can talk myself into something. But I was watching the original trilogy again over the weekend. It was on TNT or TBS. And I was watching Return of the Jedi again. And I'm like, that's the Luke. It's heartbreaking. And you changed 30 years. Yes, you can change. And nothing's saying you can't. Show me what happened. Tell me what happened. Don't just tell me that he had an issue with his nephew. That's not enough. Yeah. I need more.
I think Mark Hamill might agree with you, man. Because
at least this week.
He keeps
maybe next week he'll change his mind.
Exactly. It's like he goes back, he becomes himself, honestly, and he lets a quote slip saying like, man, I wish this, blah, blah, blah. And then they reel him back in the PR machine. He's like, nope, you liked it. He's like, I like The Last Jedi. I will appear in episode 9 if I'm a good boy.
So the split in Last Jedi obviously affected fans coming into Solo. How did you feel about Solo?
I think Solo is a fun Western. Can you pick it apart, mythology, plot holes? Sure, if you like. But for all the stuff that happened behind the scenes, to present a film that I could sit back and have a smile on my face while I was watching the movie, I was happy with that. My expectations were not high for this movie. I enjoyed Alden. I liked the Chewbacca stuff. I really liked what Emilia Clarke did with Kira. I really liked her. Loved the Paul Bettany stuff. I think that was the right move. Michael Kenneth Williams would have been weird in a movie like this. It didn't kind of feel right to cast him in this movie, so I like the switch. Woody Harrelson was a revelation in a Star Wars film. I never thought something like that would work. This is like putting Nick Cage in an MCU film. I'm like, there's no way this works. And it totally worked, and I was really happy with that. The train sequence was great. Everything that went through the film I enjoyed, and at the end I liked how it ended. So all I would say is that I enjoyed my time in the theater, but I understand why people didn't like it. I'm just really surprised at the level of vitriol that the film has garnered amongst fans, and to the point where people aren't going to see it on purpose to send a message to Lucasfilm and to Disney, and that's incredible. These are rare moments in film-going history. Like even the Transformers, which I defend because I just love them as stupid fun. People still kept going. Yeah, but people still kept going to see them to the tune of $4.5 billion. Even the terrible ones, they went back and see. It wasn't until this last one they finally said enough is enough, and I think that's what happened. Last Jedi split the fandom, and then the fandom didn't like the way Lucasfilm reacted and didn't like the way people reacted to their disgust with what they thought Ryan did to their Star Wars. They didn't feel respected, so they were like, well, I don't need to spend my money on a solo movie. I'm not going to that. We'll see if they go.
Do you think it's the whole movie, or do you think it's specific to Luke that the problem is?
With
Because
Jedi?
I sense that it's like usually the treatment of Luke is
Yes.
what is the trigger for people.
Oh yeah, I think that's the number one thing. People have side issues with Poe Dameron. People have side issues with the storyline with Finn and Rose. Sure, but I think it's the Luke thing. Luke is too deep. Luke Skywalker is too deep in our love of Star Wars. That is like the foundation that everything springs from. Leia is great. Vader is great too. Yep.
Mark Hamill's like 67 years old. Like if he's going to show up in episode 9. I think we all assume
Probably,
that. If he showed up as an organic person still in episode 9, he's probably dying in that movie, right?
Sure. But he's dying in a way in which he actually wields his lightsaber in real life. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah,
a lot of people had issues with that. Listen, I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying this is what people had issues with.
That's what I'm sensing is hashtag not my Luke. It's kind of like this is my childhood. It was that bright, optimistic person that no matter how bad things got, he was always optimistic. And to see that person just be like, nah, I give up. Then you're like, wait, then what else do I have to believe in if this guy's giving up? I think it was like that thing.
Yeah, and that's fair.
So let's get a little bit back. So then that was the feeling coming out of Last Jedi, and then before people even saw Solo, they were already boycotting it, saying, I'm not going to go see that. I don't like the way Lucasfilm is handling this. And then we have people who did see it who are kind of maybe mixed about it, but I think overall people are kind of like in the 60% region. Like, I liked it, but just a little bit over it, Do you think, let's talk about how Solo performed and how that's going to affect the future of these films. Are people going to continue to boycott the movies until something major happens? Like, are people just not going to even go see 9 because, 8 was bad, Solo was bad, I'm not going to see 9? Or do you think
I don't buy that.
Or do you think there's going to be enough time in between?
Everyone's going to go see episode 9, dude. It's the final movie. Like, even people who hate it, they're going to buy it 3 times, like Alex Backus told us. They're going to go see it. Something about saga films, in my opinion, saga films are like invincible. Especially if this is going to be, quote-unquote, the final one, people are going to go see it.
And they're going to see it just so they can complain about it.
But I don't think, like the reports coming out that a Fett movie's happening, if a Solo movie didn't work, a Boba Fett movie's not going to sell.
That movie is dead.
I don't think that movie's happening.
That's another aspect of this as well, is the Boba Fett movie. So,
and a Kenobi movie. I don't think that's happening either.
I think the Boba Fett movie is dead, in my opinion. Even though James Mangold is in negotiations and whatever, I don't think this reaction. They're like, no, we're not going to do this. And someone who's even more obscure, or someone who's more obscure, and no. Yeah. And Kenobi could happen because if anyone came out of the prequels smelling good, it was Ewan McGregor. And people would like to see his version of Kenobi and Tatooine. You could do a lot of things with him. So I think that is possible. But I truly believe that the Rian Johnson trilogy is not going to happen. I have a feeling.
Really?
I have a feeling that too many fans connect him with Last Jedi, connect him with something divisive, and they may not patronize this trilogy. And why would you take a chance as a business and risk people. Why would you make the boulder bigger that you have to push up the hill? It's already tough to make a good movie, let alone a good trilogy. Why would you start it off with the deck stacked against you, half stacked against you already? It's nothing against Rian Johnson. He's a fantastic filmmaker. I love his movies.
They just hate him.
They just hate him. They hate him for killing their Star Wars, for killing Luke the way he did. And so I think people won't come to see that trilogy. They'll boycott it fervently.
John, this is a testament to what you do on Collider. I hadn't even thought of that, and you mentioned it recently on one of the shows. And I have to say, like, that changed my mind. Like, the way that you presented it on the show is I thought there's two hands. There's like, look, we can do a trilogy that doesn't have anything to do with the, Civil War that was happening, the Galactic Civil War. We can do that movie and just put it somewhere else in the universe. But does it have to be done by Rian Johnson? Right. Or can we just get somebody else? Like, I just think Rian Johnson, as much as 50% of fans would love to see that movie, getting somebody else means that you get those other 50% on board, and you probably still get the other fans, the 50% of fans, to be like, okay, yeah, sure, I'd like to see Christopher Nolan do one too, or whoever they get to do it. I'm sure it will be just fine. It won't be Rian Johnson's trilogy. It'll be James Mangold's trilogy or Steven Spielberg's trilogy. It doesn't matter. Whoever it is, it's just another trilogy of Star Wars films. We don't have anything to connect to it yet, so it makes sense to me. Just kind of separating from Ryan's name, it would just be a good thing.
And I only look at it from a business sense. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not even looking at it from artistic sense or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. And that's like, I've been in part of many businesses, and the second you get a stink on you, man, they want to move away from it. I mean, look at all the stuff that happened with Roseanne, the stuff that happened with all these other places. I'm not saying, Rian Johnson is Roseanne. Obviously,
I want
I'm
to see
saying
Roseanne's trilogy.
Yeah, right, exactly. Screw you, Jedi.
No.
But like, and Ryan didn't do anything like that. Obviously, Ryan did. To me, he did some incredible stuff in that film. But I think people have that feeling about him. At least half the fan base, it feels like, has that feeling about him. And it's been really incredible. When it first happened, people wanted to brush it away. Oh, it's a minority of fans. It's a minority of fans. Solo tells you that it's not a minority of fans. That people, that is right there. That is financial fact, that it is not just a minority of fans who are upset about The Last Jedi.
The future is, Star Wars Celebration, we were talking about that before we came on the air. It's going to be interesting next year because we have episode 9, but as of now, we don't know what else is coming besides the Favreau TV show and that anime Resistance series. So the future of the films is really cloudy. Clouded is the future, right? But I don't know. The Johnson thing is interesting to me because they never said he's going to write and direct all 3 movies. They said he's going to start this thing, and it's going to be a brand new story. Now, what if the people who were pissed at how he handled an existing character say, all right, well, I'll give this guy a shot to write his own brand new story. I can't be mad at that because it doesn't exist. It's his story. And we know he understands Star Wars lore. He's no joke about that. Like from Legends, how the Force works, Jedi. I have a lot of respect for how he understands the Force and things like that. So I'm not completely out on Rian Johnson. The one thing I haven't heard anything about are the Game of Thrones guys. I'm surprised because that show is white hot, and we haven't heard anything about what they may be doing in this series of films, which isn't necessarily a trilogy. So do you guys have thoughts on what the deal is with them or anything of that nature, or getting away from Rian Johnson a little bit?
Well, I just want to say for Rian Johnson, I don't think anybody will give him a chance.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's the flaw in your logic.
I would. I love Rian Johnson. Rian Johnson, what up if you're listening to this? He's the best to me, but I know the overarching thing that I've seen on Reddit, that I've seen on 4chan, that I've seen on Facebook, and all the other social channels is people hate him. And they associate him with this thing, regardless if it was his idea or not. So whatever he puts next, they're always going to bring it back to that.
Yeah, he's the guy who killed and ruined Luke Skywalker.
Yes. So I think like John said, he's out. I feel bad, but I think he's going to be out.
What was the question you were asking, John? Oh, Benioff and Weiss. Yeah, we'll see what they do with that. I find it interesting that Emilia Clarke kind of walked into this first, and then we have Benioff and Weiss. But I think Benioff and Weiss are keeping quiet because they're just going to sit down and work this thing out and figure out what they're going to do and what they want to work on. If it's Knights of the Old Republic, I'm telling you, I would lose my damn mind. It would be great to see their version of Knights of the Old Republic. Yeah, because what we saw with Game of Thrones, what they did with these massive texts of books from George R.R. Martin, imagine what they can do with these canon books and then non-canon books, that the legend stuff that they might want to kind of float into here and make canon now. I think they'd be able to do it, and I think that's what they're doing. They're keeping quiet because they're pouring through all the mythology, reading all this stuff, and then creating a story from it and connecting, because there's a lot of rich characters both in the mythology and in the legends lore. So that's what I think they're doing. They're just chilling out, figuring it all out, and letting this all die down and not weighing in on it at all, and just being themselves. It's smart.
Do you think it's going to be Old Republic?
I want it to be. My heart tells me it will be. My heart tells me it will be.
I just don't see how you don't. You're like, okay, we've got this Old Republic thing, and everybody clearly connects that with, if it was done like in a Game of Thrones manner with lightsabers and blasters, that would be amazing. And then they hire the Game of Thrones guys to do a new series of movies. I mean, it just makes too much sense. But I'm interested because I think that the gold of Star Wars is in new characters, which is surprising because most of the time you think about the movie industry, they go, oh, well, here's a movie about a character and nobody knows who it is. A lot of people probably aren't going to go see it, but if we stick Rocky on the title or something like that, then all of a sudden it's got this built-in fan base. I feel like it's the exact opposite for Star Wars. You give us Rogue One, new characters and new storylines.
Rogue One was a false new character story.
But
that was loaded with nostalgia.
And they had Vader like in all the marketing.
Tarkin.
But I'm telling you, the main characters of that movie are Jyn and Cassian. And the other thing about that too is, like, you can look at something like Rebels. People are like, what is this? These new characters, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this, but then just give it some time. People fall in love with those characters. But then you start going back and you're talking about doing Han Solo and Obi-Wan and Boba Fett. And I mean, I know people want the Kenobi movie. John, I know you don't know this, but like, I do not want that movie at all.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I'm a big advocate against it. Doesn't make sense. I don't know why anybody's clamoring for that.
Because it's Ewan McGregor.
No, I love Ewan McGregor. In fact, like he was. I was a fan of his before he even was in the prequels and stuff. So, but
well, we also have a running joke on this podcast where anytime anyone brings up the Old Republic, Pablo Hidalgo pushes it back another year.
Oh shit!
Another
what have I done?
years.
What have I done?
Don't worry, John. We're already dead. It's not coming out long till after our lifetimes. But no, I think that's an interesting thing that that we're talking about the future of a Boba Fett movie or an Obi-Wan movie, and then the future of like these other ones where the characters, nobody really knows who those characters are. But I think there's more chance for success in a new trilogy or a series by the Game of Thrones creators, or even stuff that whatever Jon Favreau is working on. I think there's more likelihood that those with new characters will be successful than attempting to do a Solo movie, a Kenobi movie, a Boba Fett movie, a Yoda movie, if that ever happens.
Oh man.
I just think people are they don't want those characters touched. They're already beloved enough.
Yeah, and I think there's a sense of mystery that people want to have about these characters, and if you start to explore the mystery, you take it away, right? I mean, what's the best thing about dating somebody is the beginning is getting to know them, discovering them, and all this. After a year, you're like, I know everything they're going to do. But like that whole year where you're discovering them, it's joyful, it's interesting, it's fun. With these movies, we only have 2 hours and limited amount of screen time to enjoy these characters. Now, if you're going to spend 2 hours like giving me all the background, like how they named Han Solo, oh man, I like moved around in my seat. I was like, I shouldn't be upset about this. It makes sense, but I don't like it.
I need your opinion. Do you think that Imperial officer looks like J.K. Simmons?
Yes. Of course he does.
That's right. He absolutely does. Go see it again.
James, you've been voted off the podcast.
Go see it again, you two.
Yeah, he's interesting, but it was all of that. But it was the same way I felt when they showed me in Batman vs Superman that Lex Luthor created the Justice League. I was like, stop it, stop messing with mythology like this. And so I don't want to know the behind the scenes. Like I don't want to have a Yoda movie. I like keeping Yoda as a philosophical guy because sometimes you don't want to know all this background stuff. It's like the new version of Halloween when they had Michael Myers. Oh, it was because his mom didn't hold him long enough. Get the F out of here. I want that he's. I can't. He's a supernatural force that I can't figure out. Let it be that.
And that's a bit of a new phenomenon now, the origin story thing, because like you think about Return of the Jedi, like where people like, well, I need to know where the Emperor came from. I need to know why he has that big heavy robe and why he's pale. And
what happened to his face?
Nobody cared.
How did the Ewoks get in the trees?
How come that guy doesn't go to a dentist? I don't understand it. Like nobody cares what happened to the Emperor. They just knew he was an evil dude, and that was enough for people. But now everyone needs to know everyone's origin story. And while I loved Solo, I agree with you guys. I don't need a young Yoda movie or anything like that. But one thing I will disagree with James on is that I don't consider Rogue One a fresh new story. That was packaged that way, but it was loaded. It had Leia in it. It had Vader in it. It had Tarkin in it. It had the Death Star in it.
It was literally like, here's the Death Star. It's going to explode.
Yeah.
Don't you want to know how it explodes?
Yeah, exactly. So now if you actually give me a new story with new characters somewhere else in the galaxy that never heard of a Skywalker and they pull it off, then I'll agree with you.
Man, I can't disagree with that more, man. Like
I know.
Old
Republic.
The
Old
Rebel
Republic.
Rising novel, Catalyst, like all that stuff, like with those characters, and oh man, like even Two Tubes and Saw Gerrera, like I want to
Side characters.
but they're important. Like that's
I'm just kidding,
you just
man. I'm
opened
just
up the world. I care about those characters now, you know?
I guess what I need to know is Kathleen Kennedy said we have the next 10 years of Star Wars movies mapped out, and I'm going to assume right now that they don't.
Yeah, I don't think they do anymore. If they ever
It
did,
was on the wall and now it's in the can.
yeah.
Is there going to be a 2020 movie, or are they going to take a break? Do you guys
Ooh,
think?
that's a good question. I think if the Kenobi movie comes through, they'll put it there. I think that's a stopgap to make people like be okay. And if they replace Kathleen quickly enough with whoever's going to take over, or Kathleen leaves as Lacey pointed out by her own volition, I think whoever takes over has to put something there as like a stopgap and as a presentation of what they're going to do with their version of Star Wars as the Kevin Feige type person in control of it.
Don't worry, guys. I'll put something there.
Maybe the Kenobi movie will be the tourniquet, like kind of like, well, let's poll the people. People are starting to like the prequels again. Everyone loves Ewan McGregor. Everyone loves Obi-Wan Kenobi. Maybe we can unite everybody with this unneeded Obi-Wan Kenobi story and kind of recharge the batteries and clean our palate and move forward from there.
Well, I'll push back on you, John, a little bit on what you said earlier about this idea of Episode 9. I think Episode 9 is in danger. I think financially it's in danger. I think the fans won't just go see it. I think you've messed with the fandom too much and not placated them for them to be like, oh yeah, I guess we'll go see 9. I think people will hesitate, and not everyone was happy that JJ was coming back. You know, some people had a real issue with Force Awakens, called it tracing of A New Hope, and so
that's fair.
So I think you'll have to see a lot more. I know that JJ, well, I don't know, but what I hear is JJ started that script from scratch, and he's trying to massage what Ryan did in 8 and make it work into what he wants to do in 9. So who knows how that's going to work?
I don't see how you turn 8 into a tracing of Return of the Jedi.
No. People were saying that it was a reverse Empire Strikes Back, where you start on Hoth but you end on Crate. Like you start,
right.
It was reverse Empire Strikes Back in reverse, and so all of that. So that's what they were saying about 8. But I don't. To me, I think JJ is going to do what he's going to do. I look forward to seeing what he does, and I hope people come out of it feeling happy about it. And then 2020, if we have that Kenobi movie, then we'll be okay and move forward. Because I think the last thing I want, and I said this on the same show, James, was I don't want 15 years of no Star Wars again. Like, I just don't.
Oh, yeah.
And, so if it has to be one movie a year, let it be. But I just don't kill it.
So the Kenobi movie is the thing that we all think could bring the fandom together?
I just said that. I mean, everyone may disagree with that, but it's the only thing right now that's on the table that can, is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, that's a good point. I don't know. It almost kind of scares me. They're like, I know they're asking for it. Like, if I were in charge of Lucasfilm, I'd be like, I know they're asking for it, but like, if we fail with that, I mean, that's
Well,
like
that's why you make the
literally,
moves.
That's your last bet. You're all in.
If I can be honest, I only want it to happen so that I can watch an interview with Ewan McGregor that doesn't involve him being asked if he wants to be. Again.
Poor Ewan, he skipped the solo red carpet. He was like, nah, I'm out.
Yeah. If I shave my beard, they won't see me.
Yeah, and I think on the business side, we're going to go back into business talk for a sec as someone that works in marketing. I think you're going to see a very different marketing plan going into episode 9. You're going to see a lot of stuff more early. You're going to see a lot of more cool moments that, you know, they're very secretive with 8. That's not going to happen with 9. It's going to be in your face months in advance, like a year in advance. They're going to have
That's
a full
very
panel at
anti-JJ,
Celebration.
but I agree.
What?
Wow. Okay.
That's anti-JJ, but I agree with you.
I think they're going to have
agree
a
with you.
full panel at Celebration. Yeah, they'll bring everybody out because they want everybody to be happy with it. I guarantee it.
But that's not. You think that's the first glimpse we'll get at Celebration?
I think we might even get something earlier because we did get stuff earlier before Celebration for 2015.
They did a year-long push for Force Awakens, but both Rogue One and Last Jedi had almost identical schedules, with the first trailer being at Celebration. Then somewhere along the lines later, they did like a behind the scenes. I think that was...
It was at D23.
Yeah, D23, they do the behind the scenes. And then later down the line, they do, somewhere in that fall month.
But they
do
weren't
the
in the
second
negative position that they're in right now. So if I was looking at that as a marketer, I would say, let's get more stuff out earlier. Let's do more fan events, get more people on our side. And the only people who are going to do that is bringing out celebrities.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the Kenobi thing works too because of the fact that he was prequels and original trilogy. That character was in both. And so, and I know Yoda was too, but it's not quite the same. Kenobi is someone you can connect to as a human character. We're all humans. So, like, I think that
He was such a
would
strong presence, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's how you...
Prequel Yoda was weird. Man.
It was also CG,
Yeah. So my last question for this discussion from my perspective here to you guys is they're always going to have episode 10 in their back pocket if they need to bring that stuff back. So if they can Rian Johnson, as you guys think they might, and they got the Game of Thrones guys who may do the Old Republic thing, I wonder how much urgency they'll place on continuing the saga and bringing that back sooner than they would have liked to if they need to.
It depends what the reaction to 9 is.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't see 10 happening for long after a new trilogy and the Benioff and Weiss stuff. I think they're going to let all that stuff play out and then take it from there and figure out how did all this stuff land, and if it's good, then maybe they continue doing things like that. If it's bad, then maybe they go episode 10. What do you guys think?
Yeah, right.
So I think all of that is dependent. There's no episode 10 the date on the board at Lucasfilm. It's a big X with a question mark after it, and they have no clue. They're like, that's our back pocket, our Joker card, if you will, for later down the line.
Yeah, because I don't know if these actors return. Would you? I mean, it's crazy because each trilogy, when it ends, has its casualties, and even the original trilogy, Hamill was typecast for years. Carrie Fisher went into writing and acting every once in a while, but mostly writing. And of course, Harrison was one that really came out of it in a positive way. But Hamill was like Shatner coming out of Trek. He was constantly hounded by people, wanted to talk about the Star Wars. What about Luke this and Luke that? And as the novels started coming out, the other novels about Star Wars, would you have done this? Would Luke have done this? I mean, it was relentless. And so it's not a surprise that he slid into voiceover acting with the Hayden Christensen. Has anybody seen him since this? I mean, like, it's all that stuff. And like I said, Natalie with the depression. And then now this trilogy, I think Daisy Ridley, I think if I'm John Boyega, I don't ever come back. I'm like, this was a great situation. And you haven't really done right by my storyline. I mean, Oscar Isaac can come back, I guess. Poe's been chill doing his thing, acting the fool. But like, I think Daisy Ridley is the star of the series, and Daisy Ridley does not need to walk back into another trilogy. She's going to be just fine for the rest of her career having this in her back pocket as a.
I don't think she really likes it.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Yeah, I
don't
think
think she likes
sense
being
it.
a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost feel that way about Adam Driver too. He's a very artistic actor. He's not a big blockbuster guy. I think he enjoys the process and doing it.
Yeah.
But and I mean, I think they're going to kill Kylo Ren anyway. But Lacey hates when I say that.
Wow.
But
Hot take.
Oh, I didn't know this was an issue.
She loves Kylo Ren more than anybody.
I do.
I could see him just kind of saying like, well, I did my 3 contract movies and I'm going to go on and do a 5th season of Girls or something. Like, no.
Okay, Girls is over, but second of all, he's a super, super, super talented actor, and he's like kind of above this. Like, this is him doing something nice for Kathleen Kennedy. I think he's above this role.
I want Logan Lucky too.
We're up against it, so any final thoughts on the future of Star Wars films in lieu of what has happened with Solo?
For me, I think it's wrapped in the sense that I think their gold is in the new characters. I think that with whatever happened to Solo, however you want to describe it, I think it just points to the old characters are too important to people to mess with them right now, at least. Maybe, I don't know, maybe give it more time. We'll try another one later down the line. Maybe that Obi-Wan Kenobi movie can come 10 years still down the line and, give him a little bit more time to even look more like Alec Guinness or something. So who knows? But I think that their money right now is going on the success of Rogue One, Rebels, new characters, new things that remind us of Star Wars, but aren't going to step on our childhoods, if you will.
Yeah. I don't think I could add much more to that. I agree with that completely. The new characters are where it's going to be. And I think we saw, even in Marvel with the Guardians of the Galaxy, you can create new characters that rarely anybody's collected those comic books, and you can still create a rich universe that people want to have access to. And I think there's hardly any MCU connective tissue stuff in Volume 1 and Volume 2. So I think you can do that with Star Wars and take a chance on the other stories and see where it goes. But I think you're going to have a more multi-pronged approach once this is over. I don't know if you're going to have one person in charge of the whole thing going forward. I think it'll be 2 or 3 people in charge of it, kind of guiding it in its own way. It might even be Benioff and Weiss in as part of that.
Filoni, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
Filoni.
I don't know if Filoni wants to take it on, man. Filoni's such a chill dude. He's such a chill dude. It's too much to ask.
I once had a conversation with him about sandwiches. It was the coolest conversation I've ever had with a human being.
That was the coolest conversation you ever had with sandwiches?
With Dave Filoni? Yeah.
Jeez.
James.
Unbelievable. Lacey, so what do you think? What are your final thoughts?
I think we're at a crossroads, and I hate that term, but I think it's true. I think this is a prime example of Solo was a great movie. From beginning to end, it was fun. I smiled the whole time. I laughed. I had a great time. And I keep telling people that, and people that I work with that aren't fans are like, oh, I heard it was bad, so I'm not going to see it. I think it's really causing an issue. And I think the only way to deal with it is to take a step back, evaluate, and realize that, yes, there are fans that will buy everything like me, but there are fans that are upset, that are willing to give up what they love to make a point. So
right on.
Hopefully I get an Old Republic show and at least one shirtless Kylo Ren scene in episode 9.
Of course, there it is. Every episode, you gotta sneak that in there. Like, where's Waldo on the page? It's got to be somewhere in the episode, and we just found it. All right, so we want to know what you guys out there think. We've pretty much covered every corner of this thing, but I'm sure there's things that you have thoughts on about the future of Star Wars movies in lieu of what has happened with Solo and The Last Jedi, regardless of how you feel about either movie. So let us know in the comments and on Twitter, of course, and on email what you think the future of Star Wars films hold for us. But that's it for our discussion. So thank you guys for contributing and listening. And now we are going to send it to James, who is going to get into some questions for our guest, Mr. John Rocha. And we adjusted our hashtag this week from Ask the Resistance to Ask the Outlaw. And we're going to fire off some questions at John right now via James. So, John, James, take it away, man.
Yeah, so these came from the fans. Got a couple here for you. You ready to answer some questions?
Sure. Yeah, I'm done.
All right. So we got Sarah at SEH221. She says, in regards to Solo, and this is a little bit of a spoiler if you haven't seen it, I'm sure you've seen it. In regards to Solo, why Maul? What was your reaction to that? Was it necessary? What do you think it means for Kira?
Yeah, it's a good question. When it happened, I didn't have the reaction like I had with Vader. And that I found that to be unfortunate. But I understand why, because people love Maul so much still, and they wanted to see what they could do with it, and the Crimson Dawn stuff. And wasn't he with Darth Sidious? Didn't he save him through the Clone Wars and all that? So, like, where is he at in that position of that, the crime syndicate that's involved there? So. It didn't make me jump out of my seat, but I was like, oh, interesting. Okay. But the unnecessary lighting up of the saber, that made I was like, what? You're on a Skype call. Who are you trying to, and you're the guy in position of power. She's already afraid of you. Trust me, she's already afraid of you.
It's so they could get the shot of it in her eyes. That's why.
Yeah, but it's like, okay.
That's it.
Yeah. And it was I just didn't see the point of that at all. But I think what Kira, and I had a discussion with a couple of people today from another show, and they talked about how there were people who had issues with Kira's character because they said she was not a feminist character or she was anti-feminine. And I don't know. I'm a man, so I can only approach it from my point of view. I think she's a survivor. She figured out how to survive 3 years while Solo was off doing what he was doing. She figured out how to navigate that world where she was left at and found herself in second in command to the main crime syndicate guy in that area. And then, yes, does she have a soft spot for Solo? Of course, because they were childhood friends and whatever. So what happened. But in the end, yeah, she doesn't kill Solo, but she takes over. And so that's a powerful move to me. That doesn't seem like it's not empowering. And people say, "Oh, everything's about Solo." Well, it's called Solo. It's not called something else. So it's going to be about him a little bit and about her a little bit. So I think she's a really powerful character, and I would like to see Emilia Clarke come back and do Kira in some form down the road. And I think eventually she will take over for Maul when Maul gets killed by Kenobi in that lightsaber battle. And so I think she is going to rise to a position of power throughout the galaxy.
Now, as a woman, I agree with all of that. Because I think she, at the end
waiting
of the movie,
with bated breath.
Because at the end of that movie, I think she was just like, I love Han, but get out of here. I got shit to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's not that hard to understand, and I don't think that makes her anti-feminist. I think that just makes her, look, I've had to do terrible things, and I'm not going to give this up because I've sacrificed so much to get here, and this is my moment.
You've chosen your path. I'm choosing mine. And yeah. I think it would have been way less feminist for her to become his girlfriend.
Yeah,
or his
to
love
leave
interest.
with him.
To leave with him. That's the romantic choice. That's the easy choice. She chose a survivalist choice. She knew my path doesn't lie with him. My path lies here, and I'm going for it. Nothing wrong with that.
And she's probably going to go after everybody that wronged her.
Yeah.
And it shows her darker side. Like, she thinks she can be successful in this industry.
Yeah.
And she wants that success, and she wants to rise above, and she doesn't necessarily believe that Han could give her that.
Right.
She's hooked
She wants
now,
she wants to explore red and black face tattoos. That's all. She wants to get some ink on her face.
Yeah.
And there goes my whole explanation.
All right, well, our next question comes from quite possibly the director of Edward Scissorhands, Mr. Burton.
What?
It says, Mr. Burton, now, at NP Water Guy, he said, am I wrong to feel Solo could have been made with almost any smugglers from the Star Wars lore? I feel Lucasfilm could have got the same results introducing a new group of characters.
Yes, I agree. And the irony is they might have made more money going that route than going this route. because no one was like, that's not my Han Solo. He doesn't look like Han Solo. Oh, I don't like that trailer. He doesn't sound like Han Solo. Nobody would have nitpicked these characters to pieces. They would have been focused on the story more. And so the possibility is if they had gone with any other smugglers from they'd have probably made more money doing that. You saw that with Rogue One. You only had other people popping in from the trilogies, but they weren't like the main people. So you saw that with this. So yeah, definitely any other smuggler. It doesn't need to be Solo. It really didn't need to be Solo, but it works for what they did.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Mike J at Wayne Corp says, and this is a hot take on his opinion here, can JJ salvage the brand, in quotes, with Episode 9, considering none of the legacy cast will be returning with a possible exception of a Force Ghost Luke? What do you think to that? We kind of talked a little bit about that earlier.
Yeah.
If nobody's coming back, can JJ save the sinking ship that is Star Wars right now?
I think he can't do it by himself. I think moves have to be made to appease the fans. And listen, you can stand on a hill and be no, we won't be bullied, but this is a business. Businesses make money. That's what a business is. You got to be realistic. Yes, artistic. Yes, of course. Make great films, lasting films, things that affect your childhood, things you want to share with your children. Absolutely. But you got to make money to stay in business so you can keep making those films. And so to me, that's I think it's going to take more than just JJ making a great film or going out and doing these great interviews. It's going to take people behind the scenes making moves to appease the fans, put them at ease, let them know they hear them. People don't want to tell you what to do. They just want to be heard. And I feel like a large number of Star Wars fans don't feel heard by what's happening here with this franchise and this brand. And yes, they're allowed to take ownership of it because they're the ones spending their money to patronize your brand and patronize your franchise. So that has to be respected to a certain degree. So I think they have to see moves behind the scenes that appease the fans, and JJ directing a really good film that brings people back, like he did with Force Awakens, back to feeling that love for Star Wars.
Yeah, so what do you think those moves would be? Do you have any idea, or are you just kind of...
Well, I think we talked about the Kathleen Kennedy move. I think that's the number one thing. Honestly, I think that's the number one move. I think Ryan taking him off the trilogy, I think that's the next move. And then I think maybe something in Celebration where they actually and this is crazy and insane. I'm just thinking on the spur of the moment where they have, Iger walk out there and do a bunch of Q&A about Star Wars. Like if fans could go to Celebration and actually grill people involved with Star Wars and have their questions answered or at least heard, I think the fans would love that.
They stopped doing that like 2-3 years ago. They stopped taking fan questions in the audience because they turn into, will you marry me? Will you take a selfie with me?
Right. Those kinds of things. But this is different. This is you open the forum up for people, and then you broadcast that so people can watch it wherever they're at. And as long as you control and don't make sure it doesn't get out of control and people get like vicious, I think you can have honest back and forth because people love the reason people are angry is because they love Star Wars. It isn't because they're just angry. It's a really integral part of their childhood, and so they have things they want to say. I think if you just let it go, let them ask the questions and trust that you have all the answers and you'll be able to answer them politically when you have to and honestly when you can, I think it'll be fine. Fans don't want to hate you. They just want answers, and that's all.
Mm-hmm. So Luke James 1138 at Luke James 1138, he said, I gotta ask the Outlaw, do you think Reylo is a thing? Should it be a thing? And then he had to put in P.S. I don't.
Get that in there, Luke James. Get it in there.
I want to know what you think, but I don't think that.
No, I don't think they're going to be an item. No, I think we had hints of it in Last Jedi. And I think maybe there was a moment, but when he turned on her in the throne room, she is never going to take him back after that. Let me tell you something about relationships with women. When you date women, there's a line, and once you cross that line, a woman goes, "Nope, that's it, it's done." And when she says it's done, it's done, Chico. And so to me, it feels like that's what happened in the throne room. They had this, because remember when he first connected with her, she was like, you killed Han. Why did you do these things? He was the bad boy. And she was mad at him, but she was also strangely attracted to him. And that worked through these interactions. And then in the throne room, she had the power. She said in that elevators are going up, You don't have to do this. I can save you. I will stand for you. When you turn on him, I know you can do this. And it was a little half sisterly and half possible interest romantically. And then when they had this incredible like battle and he's by her side, and then he blows it right at that critical moment when he can go with her and go and be, a good guy again and redeem himself. No, the hunger for power is what he wants more than anything else, even more than her. And she, in a very powerful position, goes, no. So I don't think Raylo will ever be a thing. But I don't know if he's going to die. I don't know what's going to happen, to be honest with you, because someone brought up, and I don't want to get too deep in this, but someone brought up, like, if he loses this lightsaber, he's lost every lightsaber battle in all the trilogies. And I'm like, I didn't think about it like that. Ugh, what kind of villain?
Unless you count when he absolutely worked Finn real quick.
Right. Well, Finn, of
or
course.
slash the control panel. Or the chair.
Yeah, he's 1-0 against control panels. That's
right. But Vader, no one was messing. Vader beat his son up like twice. So it's like before his son finally got the best of him. So, I mean, I think that's the thing with Kylo would be even more detrimental to him being a villain, is having him constantly losing these lightsaber battles, and he's supposed to be your main villain.
Yeah, I mean, he did beat Snoke. He did beat the Praetorian Guards. So there's kind of a success
with
there.
Rey, though.
With Rey, though.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, John, what you're saying is Kylo Ren is the jobber of the sequel trilogy.
He's the William Bibiani of the... Oh, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
It's getting hot in here.
That third round is a killer. So anyway, I'm just joking. Bibbs is great. I just think it's. I don't think it's a thing, and I think it was maybe possibly being a thing, and then
She shut that Falcon door on his face.
When she shut the Falcon door, it
She
was
literally
over.
closed the door on him.
Literally.
All right, we got one final question from you, and this one actually comes from us.
Oh,
we got you on the show. We got to ask you this. Yeah. There's a lot of debate about what a Star Wars movie should be. So, what makes a Star Wars film a Star Wars film, in your opinion?
Man, that is a tough question, because you know it when you see it. You know it when you feel it. How do you quantify that? I think Star Wars, it's a good Star Wars movie when it's able to make you feel a sense of adventure, a sense of love, camaraderie, companionship, family. And no matter how bad someone is, there's still the possibility of redemption for that person. And it also tells
Kylo Ren.
Yeah, well, certainly, but leaning more towards Vader. But yes, sure. But I think there's a magic that you feel when you see it that affects you and there's a great here's the perfect way to describe it. There was a great meme that happened after Force Awakens came out, where a kind of older guy, heavyset guy, walks into the theater. It was a cartoon. Walks into the theater and he walks out 10 years old. That's a good Star Wars movie. Great. When you can walk in with all your stuff from the day, like your job or your relationship or your kids or your money issues or whatever, you walk in there and all of that gets stripped away because you get lost in a space adventure with these incredibly fun and rich characters who have a great connection with each other, make each other smile, and even when the chips are down, find a way to connect with each other and fight back together and win. And you walk out feeling like you're 10 years old again, like the world is new again, and you can still conquer it. And I think that's what makes it great.
That you won too.
That you won too. Yes, exactly. And so you can go.
So, John, Force Awakens or Last Jedi?
Force Awakens. I have no complaints about Force Awakens. I
love Force Awakens. Hot take: Lacey enjoyed Force Awakens more than Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Kylo Ren was in both movies, Lacey. You're not going on a stretch here.
Here's my question though. When hearing your description of what makes a perfect Star Wars movie, I'm like, and yet people didn't like Solo. That's what I feel exactly what Solo was.
Yeah.
You got to go on the adventure. Mm-hmm. You became a kid again. You're with Han Solo and Lando Calrissian as they do the Kessel Run. I mean, that's straight out of like most people's 10 to 12-year-old self.
I left that theater. I saw it with Lacey, and I got the dice. They gave us the dice. I hung them on my rearview mirror, and I drove home like a complete asshole because I felt like I was Han Solo. So I was the kid coming out of the theater.
He's like Vin Diesel over here.
Yeah, I'm that way when I walk out of Fast and Furious movies. Me and my little Prius zipping around the highway. I will say this:
too fast, too
it's a ludicrous. Right? That's right. Just doing
The
this.
quietest street racer ever in a Prius.
That's it. Nobody can hear me coming. What were you just, James? I wanted to chime in. What were you just asking me, James?
Oh, I was just saying your description of what makes.
Why didn't it work for Solo?
Perfect Star Wars movie.
Okay, here's why it didn't work for Solo 100%. And I think it's because the Kira and Solo relationship is handed to us. It's already built. Whereas the Leia-Solo relationship progresses through those two movies to where we feel it for them to earn that moment of I love you, I know. You have to build that through A New Hope into Empire Strikes Back so that moment happens and it's powerful. Kira and Han are already romantically involved right at the beginning of Solo. So you don't have that time to build that relationship organically. You know what I'm saying? And so everything's handed to us.
Would you have liked to see Han Solo then chase after Kira? Like, come on, baby, come on, baby, come on, baby, and she's putting him off the whole time?
Well, I don't know about come on, baby, but
like
certainly
the
something where they're yeah.
yeah, exactly. No, I was trying to sum up his whole like bravado of like how he thinks women are into him and they're not even necessarily. I just got done reading Last Shot. And that was the whole thing with him and Sana. Right. He says, she's into me. You know how I know she's into me? Because she did this and this and this. And it's like, that is no way means she's into you. So that's how I feel that Han Solo would be in relationship to what you're saying about maybe his relationship with Kira. You know, maybe he should have been trying to chase after her and she's not given
that would have worked too, because that would have solidified why he has to play the cool guy all the time, because of getting his heart broken by Kira or getting his heart burned by Kira, because he really put himself out there and she had other things that she wanted to do. She had other motivations, and as much as he tried to get her, he couldn't. So he has to play the cool, laid-back guy. I love the Grease reference. Yeah. Han? Kira? Han? Oh yeah, that's my name, baby. Don't wear it out. You know, rocking, rolling. You know, that would have been funny.
Take a big bite out of a cheeseburger.
Yeah. So
I mean, everybody likes that enemies to lovers type like relationship where people hate each other, but then they grow to like each other. Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Don't turn this into a Raylo thing.
Last Jedi did that, and then she closed the door because he wouldn't go forward.
I'm on the team that she closed that door. I read the novelization. There was no compassion
we talked about,
there.
Lacey, Han and Chewie started off beating the crap out of each other. Well, Chewie beating up Han, and they became the best of friends.
Right, and that's why I think they didn't do it with Kira and Han, because they did it with Chewie and Han. Where
that was really that was the bromance. It wasn't a romance. It was a bromance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I know, but it was like they can't have two relationships in that dynamic, so they probably...
I think it's always difficult to just hand us a romance. We have to really see why, and then give me a 3-year gap in between them. And then 3-year gap in between is in any movie, Star Wars or otherwise, it's really tough to hand me a romance. But then when you throw in a 3-year gap, then I'm really not handed anything to connect to. I mean, I felt more for Val and Beckett than I did for Kira and Han, and that's not a good thing.
That's a good point.
And Kira and Han were like going at it in the first 5 minutes. I was like, give me some time to get used to her. I still like Leia.
Yeah, right?
We did our Solo challenge, and one of the questions, will Han and Kira kiss? And I just lost that so quickly. I was like, I don't think they'll kiss. And it's like, there's barely even any dialogue in the movie, and they're already kissing.
I literally leaned over to John and was like, I guess James lost that question.
Yeah.
We had one about the lightsaber. I was going to win our thing here, and then Maul lit up the lightsaber.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Son of a gun.
That's why you hate it so much.
So that's why you don't like the lightsaber thing. Yeah.
It's not necessary. It's immediately what I said in my head. Yeah. It's not necessary.
That's the last of the questions. I think we got it all
Thank
out.
you.
All right. Well, thank you all for sending in your questions. And John, thanks for answering all
Oh, yeah. It's my pleasure. This has been a blast.
Some of those are a little dicey, especially if they were out on Twitter.
Well, I'm a soldier. I'm used to walking in minefields. It's not an issue for me.
Right on.
He's an outlaw, John. He's an outlaw.
That's right.
He's the outlaw. Proved it. If you all haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, or YouTube, and take 5 seconds to rate us 5 stars on iTunes, and do us a favor, like and comment on our YouTube videos. As always, be sure to head to our website, StarWarsNewsNet.com, for all of your latest Star Wars news and information. Thank you so much to our guest, the Outlaw, John Rocha.
Thank you,
John.
all.
Where can our listeners normally find you? Although most of them probably already know.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys have seen me on Collider, but you can also follow me at The Rocha Says, Rocha. That's my homage to The Rock. You can on Twitter and on Instagram. I do a bunch of podcasts myself. Got the Top 10 show over there on Schmoes Know Podcast Network, where me and Matt Knows count down the top 10 films of a topic for the week based on what's being released. Steve Morris and I, we host the Cinephiles on iTunes. We talk about one classic or great movie and break it down over 2 hours. We've done New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. We will be doing Return of the Jedi probably very soon. And of course, Outlaw Nation, when I bring it back. It's been 6 weeks. Listen, my life is really, really busy, and so trying to find that hour to record it can be difficult. But everything else I'm doing here on Collider, you guys can watch for my stuff there. So, and thanks again. Listen, you guys, I've been reading you guys for 3 years now. To be able to be on the Resistance broadcast means so much to me. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you,
John. You're my favorite guest. I mean, what?
Oh, thank you.
Especially with how busy you are to take time to join us. We really do appreciate it very much.
Thank you. It's worth it when it's fun stuff like this.
And now that you're a part of the Resistance, you're welcome back anytime, my man.
Thank you. I'm going to get a tattoo tonight about it.
All right. Perfect. James, where can people find you when you're not getting tattoos?
Well, like John was saying, man, you can catch me listening to the Cinephiles, man. That episode on Big Lebowski, I was just like, I can't take all this in, man. So much awesome information that I never even picked up on that movie.
So the James abides?
Yeah, the James abides. But yeah, if you guys want to reach out to me, you can always reach out on Twitter and Instagram at Myra Trunks. You know how to get a hold of me.
Is that a Dragon Ball reference?
It is actually a Dragon Ball reference.
Right on, man. Lacey, where can people find you on social media?
People can find me on Twitter at Lacey Gillerin, where I'm starting the official John Rocha fan club. The tagline will be "The Better John." So find me there.
Whew.
Thank you.
Brutal. And yeah, I mean, I guess I'll still tell you. You guys can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey, and I'm starting a fan club called The Other John, and it's gonna be about me. I'm also writing over at StarWarsNewsNet.com pretty much every day. And our new sister website, MovieNewsNet.com, which we're just getting going here. I just wrote a piece today about Top Gun 2, which is starting filming right now, and I know our guest is a big fan as well. So, yeah. Most importantly, we want to thank you out there for taking the time out of your day to join us to talk some Star Wars. We appreciate the support. And keep spreading the word of our show to everyone you know that loves that galaxy far, far away. So go enjoy your weekends, and we'll be right back with you on Monday morning with a brand new episode of the Resistance Broadcast. And John Rocha, you could be my wingman anytime.
Hey. No, man. You could be mine.
There it is.
I hate all of you.